Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Comic Crack, and it's Monday. Time to do our weekly wrap up of shit that I've read this week. We had our chat over on, it was actually my channel this week. So if you want to see the full conversation, if you want to hear a couple people talk about rugby and all sorts of other things, you can go to watch that. Next week, we're going to be probably Tuesday afternoon on Rasa's channel. So make sure you're subscribed to her as well. And yeah, there you go. Let's just jump into it. Gonna start with some music. I had the pleasure, honor, good fortune of seeing an incredible band last night, a two-piece called Bell Witch. They came through town. They have a new album out called Future's Shadow Part 1, The Clandestine Gate. It's the first in what's going to be 3 albums from the duo. This first one is, I think the runtime is like 80 minutes. So they performed the whole, or I believe, I haven't actually listened to the album proper. I didn't listen to it on purpose. I wanted to see them play it live. I believe they performed the whole thing last night. They're on a North American tour, so go and check them out if they come around your town. It was an incredible performance. It was actually pretty uplifting. This new album starts with some like Hammond organ, church organ. There's some beautiful projections onto the back of the stage, onto the curtains. There's some almost like chanting monk style clean vocals for the majority of where there's vocals. There's some like stereotypical growly metal kind of vocals, which I happen to be a huge fan of as well too. So I thought it added an extra nice texture, but it's a beautiful album. I don't know yet if it's my favorite of their albums. I bought 2 albums from them. This one is one of their early ones. I think it's 2012 or something. It's called Longing, and this one has a bunch of shorter songs actually. And this has been kind of on repeat. I played it a couple of times. I found it on Bandcamp as well too. You can find all their stuff on Bandcamp, I should say. Let's see, will that focus at all there? But this one is really surprising to me. This second track, Rows of Endless Waves, is pretty fucking phenomenal, especially kind of the last few minutes of it. Pretty beautiful. They're kind of in this genre called funeral doom, so it's very, very slow, very atmospheric. Not the most uplifting of music, but I find it really engaging. The album, the only small critique is I don't think this album art kind of matches what you find on the interior of the album, as amazing as that art is. So they had a limited edition cassette of this release, which I couldn't pass up. The first time I personally heard Bell Witch was the album Mirror Reaper. And thank God they had a copy of it's a double LP set with stunning artwork. I'm blanking on the name of the artist. I think is he Czechoslovakian? Dan Elson, how are you, man? Hey, Turn, stoked you got to see Bell Witch. As I mentioned earlier, their drummer used to live in Chico, where I live, and my band would play shows with his old band often. It's amazing. Thanks for checking us, coming back here again, Dan. It's really good to see you. So this one, because it's this Mirror Reaper, it's sort of reverse of what it would be for an album, as if you're seeing it through a mirror, but opens up to this beautiful gatefold where you can see all of the painting. It's just glory. This is a fantastic record. Like I said, these 2 that I'm showing you tonight are probably my favorite of their stuff, and I would highly recommend either one of these. But please understand, you have to be in a certain kind of mood for some of this stuff. So beautiful gray and black vinyl on this one. I haven't put this on the turntable. I was hoping to this afternoon, but I just ran out of time today. So it was a hell of an experience. Kind of something that I never really thought I would get to see live. I'm a big fan of live music. I've seen a lot of heavy bands in my life, like lots of heavy bands. And the ones that always sit with me are the ones that kind of have this real sonic impact. And for this new piece, it's like I said, the first kind of 10 minutes is kind of this organ. When the bass comes pounding in and the waves start crashing and the visuals, like it hits you full on in the chest for the live set. And it's that kind of stuff is what I love the most about seeing heavy music. I love the physicality of it. The music itself is incredibly moving. All of metal, I'm a huge fan of metal of all sorts of genres, but there's really nothing like doom and sludge and funeral doom for like that real heavy kick in the ass. I like feeling the frequencies move around. So it's yeah, I can't recommend it much more than that. Pretty fantastic stuff. I hope that when they do their next two albums for this trilogy, they make it back to Winnipeg for each of those tours as well. Yeah, I'd love to see them again. Ironically, Jesse's old bands were all super fast thrash metal punk, and he told me he basically ruined his joints from the way he played by his late 20s. So now he's moved on to the opposite style. Amazing. It's hilarious. There you go. So that's Bellwitch. My son and I bought tour shirts as well too. So we were fortunate enough to, through the University of Manitoba station, through the connections, quote unquote, we were able to kind of get on a guest list. So we saved some money buying tickets, but we made sure we made up for it in buying a boatload of merch right from them. So yeah. Anyway, enough of that. After the stream, I went to pick up my daughter from her daycare, her for after school care rather, and we made it down to the bookstore, Chapters Indigo, right around the corner from where we live. I haven't been in there for a little while, so it was kind of good to poke around, see what kind of books they had on the shelves. They're doing a little Calm Blanchette, boom indeed, hello. They did a little overhaul in the store, so they've changed the comic section. It feels like there's even less kind of comics and even more manga than there has been in the past, but the collection of comics and independent publishers that they carry has always been pretty surprising for like a big chain store like Chapters Indigo. Is there a lot of stuff they should have in the store? For sure, but I'm amazed at how much of this kind of thing they do have there. So there was one copy of this left, and honestly, I didn't go there looking for it, but as soon as I saw it on the shelf, grabbed it up off the shelf. I don't want to spoil too much of this. I don't even really want to talk about it too much. I did read it pretty much as soon as I came home. Donovan, always great day for Daniel Clowes. Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Lord Tapman, hello. Thanks for joining us. This is a hell of a book. Honestly, if you haven't read anything about it or you haven't watched any videos, please do yourself a favor and do not. Even if you can't afford to buy this for another couple of months, honestly, I really think you need to go into this dry, which is why I really hesitate to talk about it too much at all. I'll just kind of show you a few of the first pages so you can get a sense of it, but I'm not going to go very deep into it. So yeah, don't worry, Dan. No spoilers here whatsoever. Absolutely zero spoilers. I will say this. It was a very surprising book. Dan Clowes is a gorgeous artist. Dan Clowes has an amazing relationship with Fantagraphics. Fantagraphics has done a top-notch job on this. The paper, even the paper itself, it is a hell of a book. So you can see it's broken up into chapters, and we get a little look at some of his fantastic lettering. I have so many thoughts about this book. I spoke to Colin after, literally as soon as I finished reading it. There was a message from Colin, so I mentioned to him that I just finished it, and he asked me what I thought. I said, honestly, I don't really know. I loved every single page of it. I loved the book itself. There's a lot to process here and a lot to kind of think about, and that's great. Yeah, it's Daniel Clowes. He's a hell of a storyteller. He's a hell of a cartoonist. It's a really, really good book. It's really, really good. It really, honestly, that's all I'm going to show you. I'm not going to show you any more than that. It's well worth a read, and it is well worth your time. And honestly, even when you buy it, don't even flip through it. Just open it up from here and start reading. And you know, we'll kind of wait a couple of more months, and I'd love to talk about this in a little more detail, but I do want to wait for a little while. So there you go, Daniel Clowes, Monica. One of the other books that I didn't talk about this afternoon was The Big Wheels. I don't remember where the hell I got this, probably from one of the comic sales here in town. Some praise from Mike Allred and Scott McCloud on the back of it. I recognize this cover. I'm sure I've seen it around before. Graham Chaffee. This is a Fantagraphics publication from 1993. Mostly a silent story that kind of takes place in this city, and we get kind of the opening of our kind of clock tower attendant mechanic doing kind of standing by. And from there, we sort of go into the workings of the city and how everybody sort of ends up intersecting throughout their day and how the city kind of runs. So it kind of has that theme, that clockwork sort of theme throughout the entire book. I enjoyed it. I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as kind of the praise on the back puts it, but I guess maybe that's a standard thing. Graham Chaffee is an artist to watch. His debut effort, The Big Wheels, is a haunting tone poem of remarkable subtlety and depth. Highly recommended. Pretty fancy words there, my friend. I really enjoyed it. I actually didn't remember that this is his debut. So for a debut, it's a hell of a debut. Then I will say that. Very, very nice looking style. Sort of fits in that kind of 90s independent comic style very, very well. And they're just kind of little snapshots of people in the city, and we float between main characters. There's not really a main character in the whole thing, and the only kind of overarching story is the inner workings of the city and how everybody relates to each other. Really nice. I don't know anything else that he's done. I'll give him a look for sure to see where else he's popped up. His specific style doesn't kind of stand out to me for the artist himself. It ends up looking like a number of other, like I said, books from the time, but I can't say that I know his work from anything else. So there you go, Big Wheels in kind of a nice soft cover magazine size. I guess I'll talk quickly about this because I don't have too much to say about it. I didn't end up talking about this one on the stream either. I did get a bunch of early Firefly books from Boom. I did start in issue number 1. I'm missing issue number 2. I did read this first one though, and I mean, I'll say the same thing I say every single time we talk about Firefly. Goddamn, I'm excited to read this series from the beginning. I just found issue number 10 this afternoon, actually, in a back issue bin, and I'm hoping I can fill in some more gaps without having to resort. I'm hoping I can fill in gaps locally without having to resort to my comic shop. My comic shop has a ton of it available on their website, but this is going to be fun. Starting from scratch. The rest of what I'm going to talk about, we did cover in the show this afternoon. So those of you who don't want to hear me repeat myself, I totally understand if you take off. And for those of you who weren't there this afternoon, let's get into it. The Enfield Gang Massacre. I ended up finding a copy of issue number 2. So I have the first 3. Rasa and I were talking about it this afternoon, and she was saying that she read this was going to be a 6-issue miniseries. My understanding was it was going to be 4. Obviously, I'm wrong about that if she's finding information that it was going to be 6. What I can say about this is that it is so goddamn enjoyable. It really gets me excited about these two as kind of a creative team. So it's Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips are doing this. The other book that they're doing together is That Texas Blood. I don't know how this fits in with that world. I'm assuming that there's some sort of history, some character that appears in here appeared in That Texas Blood, but how that relationship is, I have no fucking clue. It's not the most complicated story. There's a gang, there's been a murder, the law is closing in on them, and they're ready to just slaughter them all. Hence the title, The Enfield Gang Massacre. There's no secret as to what's going to happen by the end of this issue, or the end of this series, rather. I'm sure there will be a twist or two near the end, but for the most part, I don't expect anyone to survive. The coloring is beautiful. The art is beautiful. The paper itself is outstanding. Everything from like the ads in the front cover where they have the credits are really good. The reward poster on the back cover is phenomenal. There's some nice back matter here too. Every issue has had clippings or an article from I should say supposed article, because again, I still haven't looked into it any further. The Texas Record, apparently from August of 1996, issue number 7, talking about the time in history. But like I said, I don't know if this is all part of the gimmick or if this is actually based on a true story or not. But I'm very, very much enjoying this. The tactileness of this, I think for me, it really helps bring me into the story even that much more. So I'm very impressed with this book. I'm really looking forward to more. But yeah, like I said, it's not breaking new ground as far as storytelling is going, but not everything has to. Some things can just be goddamn fun. And speaking of fun, I was kind of surprised at how much I enjoyed this next one. Only 2 issues from what I can tell. It was supposed to be 4. The other 2 I don't think ever came out. This is It, The Terror from Beyond Space from Millennium Comics. I'm so bad with years on stuff. I should really just make myself one goddamn note before I start these streams. 1993, I think is what that says. Based on the movie of the same name, It. Nice kind of die cut cover there. As Rasa said, she thought that it was someone in a washing machine when she first saw it. And based on that Uzumaki style twisted body, that could very well be the case. There's some really nice coloring going on in this one. Dean Zachary, Jim Amish, and Robert Lewis, and then colors by Marcus Rowley and Deirdre DeLay. It has a kind of airbrushed quality to the whole book that honestly at times is kind of gross, but more often it's kind of appealing to me. I really dig it. The story is sort of it turns into kind of an Aliens ripoff, really, to be honest. There's a group of astronauts that have been sent to Mars to see about having some life on Mars as humans are trying to get off the planet. There's been a distress call from them, and this new team is sent to kind of see what the hell happened to them. Only one of the members of that first team have survived, and he's claiming that an alien killed everybody else, but all signs point to that he has killed everybody until we get to these two panels. Beautifully done. I kind of dig this. Almost again like that 90s kind of independent style with that background that's just that yellow. The close up on the teeth as the blood dribbles off of the panel and down off of the page is a real nice little touch. This was just, again, just fun. I think that's kind of the theme of this week of reading. There was just a lot of fun books to read. I really dug this, and I loved when they started doing the flashback, like all of these gradients on every single panel. I just don't understand what the thought process was there, but I kind of dig the way that it looks. Yeah, and in here, it's just really ends up cutting right through them. The background, yeah, interesting choices for sure. This, I thought, was a pretty good use of color as well, too. These kind of purples and blues and sort of pinks here. When we're talking about the flashback, and he's talking about when they first landed, what they discovered here. They discovered this sort of tomb with this mummy, and as they kind of break the seal and spend some time in the space, it starts to come back to life. And this is a really nice image there. Looks like that from the original Star Trek, when it's the lizard people, and it's Kirk and him fighting mano a mano, hand-to-hand combat on that planet. That's what that really reminds me of there. But Predator style heat signal coming off the guy. I wouldn't hesitate to pick this up if you saw it in a 50-cent bin. I wouldn't pay much more than 50 cents. I might pay 60 cents. Hello, Daryl D. How the hell are you, man? I wish I had as much time to read as many comics as you do on a weekly basis. Bravo. Thank you very much, Daryl. I really try to spend some time down here at night decompressing and reading a couple of books a night. It depends on the mood. Honestly, Rasa and I were talking about it after the stream today. It's pretty necessary, especially with the shit that goes on in the world, and everybody has their own personal lives where shit is going on as well too. So I think it's important to kind of try to find time to decompress and engage in something that you enjoy. And then issue 2, not much different in here. We get a little more sort of standard coloring on this page here as he kisses him to suck the life force out of him. Let's see if we can find that image of the shriveled husk of a man. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, good stuff. It, the terror from beyond space. And for those of you who live in the States, if you do any sort of Lone Star shopping online, Lone Star is a fantastic resource for a ton of these indie and obscure kind of titles, and they're usually fairly cheap on there, you know. They may break my 50-cent rule, but I think it's worth it if you're going to make an order anyway to throw some of these other things in. I agree. I couldn't live without my nightly round of comics reading. Yeah, it's really important. Nice to digest and just sit back. Another one that was better than I thought it was going to be. I think I've seen this first issue before, and I've always passed on it, knowing full well that it was Dave Cooper. I'm glad that I chose to pick these up the last time I saw them. This is a really, really great book. Way better than it should be. This is early Aircel. This is early Dave Cooper. This is what, 88 or something like that, I think is what the date was on this. The there was supposed to be 3 issues. The 3rd issue never came out. 1988. The 3rd issue never came out. Eventually, this Jake Thrash was collected, though, and in that collection, they include the 3rd issue. Pardon me. It is listed on the Lone Star Comics page, so I have it bookmarked in my wish list. I really, I'm kind of surprised. I've been loving. Dan was also saying this afternoon that he's been doing something similar with getting all the Dave Cooper he can get his hands on from Aircel, specifically because he did a fucking boatload. And I'm in that same boat. I've been doing that a lot as well too, and discovering some. It's all been fun, but honestly, this one is probably my favorite so far. This is one that I would probably suggest anybody who's looking to kind of get into some early Dave Cooper. I would honestly suggest Jake Thrash over anything else. The collection's in black and white. Oh, hey, there you go. Look at that, Colin Blanchett with dropping the bomb. That's I guess okay. Unfortunate though. Good to know. Do you have the collection then, Colin? What I love, because one of the things that I do love about these issues is his use of color in this, and more specifically, his use of kind of atmosphere on the pages. Everything really seems like a lived-in world. There's this kind of swampiness to every single page. Sorry, let me back up here. Coloring, I'm assuming this is for it. The coloring on this book is really wild. I'll keep an eye out for that one. I do buy from Lone Star often, but it's a bummer. They've raised their prices so much over the years. Yeah, from what I hear, that is the case, and especially with shipping being the way it is. That's why I try to kind of save up and buy. I mean, this last order, I think I bought, 34 books or something like that. So, yeah, I just snagged a bunch of Gun Fury and Icarus. Yeah, Dave Cooper Aircel from my comic shop's warehouse last weekend. Incredible. Yeah, I like the color too, you say. Yes. So it kind of gives everything this swampy kind of vibe, and there's an atmosphere that's in the air throughout this whole thing. The story itself is kind of forgettable. It's kind of just 2 gangs and fighting and all this, but nothing really to write home about. But I mean, even just look at this panel, all the layers that are going on in here with the colors. So that's a real shame to hear that the collection is only in black and white. So that means that you should find the single issues as well as the collection. I would like to see this. I would like to see this in black and white, no doubt. But I think you're going to miss out on things like this. Like, look at all the reds and everything. It gets to be so much sometimes that it almost makes me wonder if it's a printing error. I mean, I'm assuming this panel is done purposefully, but there are other times where it almost makes me feel like, is it a printing error? And he kind of gets this 3D effect on the characters here. Like, here's our Jake Thrash himself leaning against his whip, getting ready to fuck some shit up. And he looks very 3-dimensional. That page has a lot of depth in it, and a lot of kind of that later Dave Cooper texture. And here he is again in an outstanding kind of 3-panel piece. Oh, Dan Elson, I'll get to that comment in 1 second. I promise I will. So for early Aircel, for early Dave Cooper, I think this can't be beat. This has kind of been top notch so far. And over the past year or so, just grabbing up a lot more Aircel than anybody. And I mean, I'm not even grabbing as much as Colin Blanchett here, but grabbing up as much of it as I can possibly get my hands on over this past year. This is a standout in many, many ways. So highly recommended from this week, I think, as is everything that I end up talking about in these videos. But this was kind of one of the big hits, I think, the biggest surprise. And then just take a quick look through issue number 2. So here again, we get some of that swampiness and all of the kind of detail in this sewer system as they're deep in the bowels of the city. But again, this kind of white haze that appears all over the place. I'd be curious to see how that gets pulled off black and white, because I mean, that's not something he's putting in there. um, I feel like the black and white is going to lose a lot. Honestly, I'm very, very curious to see that now, knowing that little detail. As far as Warlock 5, man, Colin and I are huge fans of Warlock 5, and I include Colin in this because we both kind of really got taken by those first 14 issues there. I did end up buying a hardcover collection as well too, that includes the previously unpublished stuff from that magnificent duo. I found online on Discogs there's a listing for a Warlock 5 soundtrack. There was one guy on Discogs who has a copy, or who lists that he has a copy, and I contacted him to see if there was any way in hell he could digitize that and send it to me, or if he was looking to sell the tape. He's absolutely not looking to sell. And I guess he's of a generation that he's got no fucking clue how to digitize a cassette tape, which is a real bummer. I have it. I have it on my wish list on SoulSeek, this program that I use. So there's always a search running every time I open up SoulSeek, with the hopes that one day I'm gonna find it. Yeah, man, there's a fucking soundtrack. There is a goddamn soundtrack, and I haven't heard a single piece of it, but it's apparently an electronic music soundtrack. And each of the pieces, have a look at it on Discogs. You can find it on Discogs. I want to hear that desperately. And yes, it's the Warlock 5 fan club around here for sure. Hello, Chaos and Comics. We are the cheerleaders. Really captures the swampy vibe with that coloring. I love those issues. Great to see you giving it some attention. Yeah, man, it's I love digging through those old bins. Get him on a live show and he should just play it. That would be incredible. I have tried reaching out to him actually, and I got no response. But I mean, that's happened a couple of times. I've reached out to creators. I guess I don't have that touch. People don't want to appear on this little YouTube channel. After the scathing interview with Dan Fogel all those years ago, they don't want to appear on the channel. They don't want to have the hard questions thrown at them. I'm kidding, obviously. Yes, it must be unearthed. And if you have any success, you must share. If anybody, and that goes for anybody watching, if anybody has any success in finding that, get that motherfucker digitized and share. Finally, for tonight, the title that I've Warlock 6 was even better. The title that I've been on the hunt for a long time. Very difficult to find. I'm still missing one final issue. There's collections. We were talking about it this afternoon. Rasa was doing some investigative journalism while we were live. And there's been a couple of different printings of the collection of the Marquee stuff. The early collection, so the very first, it went to a couple of companies. Started off at Caliber Press, went to Oni Press. Oni Press collected this first 5-issue Dance Macabre. It had another, I don't think it was this prelude. I think it had a different prelude that they claim had been previously unpublished within that collection. That collection ends up getting reprinted a few times. This is a hell of a book. And again, it's mainly due the story. The story is good as well. There's some really shining moments. There is some kind of less than polished storytelling with a lot of repetition, especially when you get into this second. This one happens to be a 2-issue miniseries. There's a lot of heavy duty dialogue that's saying a lot of the same things that are kind of laid out in this one. So I thought that was a little sloppy. But overall, this is a fantastic book. So it starts out in 1997. Actually, it starts out way before that. The Marquis was going to be, oh, if I can reach, motherfucker, reach. The Marquis was originally going to be a character that was going to appear in Baker Street. Baker Street started in, I think, 89, 90, if I'm remembering correctly. Yes, so this one is 1990 for this issue, and this is issue 7 of, is it 9 issues, I think there was. So originally, the Marquis was going to appear in this series by Guy Davis. Going to look a bit different, white costume, white mask. As he started kind of working on the character even more, it kind of took on a life of its own. He built this world around it and decided that it should be a standalone series and a standalone character that he had some kind of big plans for. So this comes out in 1997. 3 years later, in 2000, he's switched over to Oni Press, and finally this first 5-issue miniseries comes out. 2001 is when we get this 2-issue miniseries, and I think it was 2002 where we get kind of the final single issue that I guess wraps everything up. He talks a little bit about, in the back matter of this one, there's a different character that makes an appearance near the end of this series that he had talked about maybe wanting to dig into his past a little bit more, but I guess kind of plans changed, things changed. Guy Davis is really one of my favorites. I was looking today, they had some BPRD collections, collected editions at the bookstore as well. They didn't have book 1 yet, but seeing his name and just flipping through and seeing his art in that series, I really should start picking up those collections, I think. Just the very basic premise of this is demons have escaped from hell yet again in another comic book series, and yet again there's someone that is going to go around and has the ability to see the demons in their true form, and slaughter them and send them back to hell. That's the very basic premise. It goes in a little deeper than that, but that's really all you need to know. And honestly, the story is fine. There's nothing wrong with the story. The draw here is this mind-boggling Guy Davis art, and the kind of atmosphere and texture that he's able to put on the page, kind of along the same lines as that Jake Thrash. This feels like a lived-in world. His character designs are really amazing. There's no doubt that this is Guy Davis. His monster designs are kind of next level. These 2 pages really set the mood. We haven't been introduced to the Marquis yet, but we get all of this heavy kind of zipatone use and textured panels and backgrounds, and snow. And then, boom, we get the Marquis in all his glory with very limited atmosphere in front of him to really push him into the foreground of this panel here when we first get introduced to him. And it's funny, when we do eventually see the Marquis, there you go, there's one of his creatures there, looking straight out of the pages of Hellboy universe. When we do finally see the Marquis without his mask on, he's not kind of the stereotypical superhuman or superpowered type hero. He's kind of this, I don't know, goofy, paunchy looking loser to some degree, who just questions everything and questions his faith. And so that's kind of an intriguing part of it as well too, and this kind of very cinematic pullback. So great stuff. The bonus with this prelude is you get a backup, which is sketchbook and a little bit of history of the character. We get a bunch of the original sketches. So here's the way the character was supposed to look in Baker Street, and then we can see how he developed throughout time, into even like this is such a killer drawing. Guy Davis is one of those guys that there's a lot of sketchbooks around. It's something else that I have bookmarked on Lone Star. Is there was a series of Guy Davis sketchbooks, and I've got that magazine that focuses on Guy Davis, which I need to finish reading. I got to pull that off the shelf. Where the hell did I put it? I don't see it from here, but because I want to read about more about the creation of this character and what his plans were for it. Some of the background characters. We get some promotional pinups, and then he also shows you these were going to be the advertisements that they were going to use in Caliber, in various Caliber comics. For the series itself, I'm unsure what the story is because he switched publishers. I'm sure that has something to do with why this never came out in Caliber. I'm not sure if their relationship ended on good terms or bad terms. I don't have that kind of knowledge of it, but yeah, really, really nice stuff. So 1997 for this, and then we jump all the way to 2000, and we just get more. I'm going to pull all of these out. We won't look at every single issue here, but I just did want to show you a little bit from the first one. Also, we get some guests on covers here. So here's Mignola cover on issue number 2. Charles Vess on issue number 3 here. This, I think, was the very first one I ever found of the Marquis. Don't remember who this is on issue number 4. And then it's Kelly Jones on the cover of issue number 5. So even this, I guess, early in his career, not really that early in his career, he was getting some heavy hitters to contribute. In one of these issues, there's a Stan Sakai pinup as well, too, actually. Let's see if I can quickly find that. Was it in this, or was it in the 2-issue mini afterwards? It might have been in the 2-issue mini afterwards. Anyway, needless to say, we then get into the meat of the series. Every single issue, we have an opening that focuses on some of the architecture and some of the cityscape, whether it's close-ups of buildings. Most of them are these aerial shots of buildings as we sort of fade into our scene for the issue. And again, we get some of the recapping because there was so much time spent between issues. We do get a little bit of a recap. It's done really nicely though. It's not too repetitive. But the one thing I will say about this, you can even see it here. It's a dialogue heavy series, and I sort of, there was times where I faded in and out of reading the dialogue. As interesting as some of it wasn't the most concise writing I've ever read in my life. It gave you a lot of information, tried to really pull you in and give you a lot of history in these little moments. How he kind of got his powers. Did I pass it already? Yeah. Yeah, it's the next page actually. So something I didn't talk about this afternoon, how he ended up getting this power of sight is he ends up going to this debaucherous party where everybody is partaking in, like, sex, drugs, and alcohol. And he's kind of looking for some answers. I seek only absolution from the saints. And they kind of say, the saints, yes, of course, we have seen your saints. We will take you to them. There you can confess all your sins. It is then that I let innocence betray my faith. Eventually, they take him into a room where it's a horse's ass with a face on it. Here's your saint. Confess all your sins to this horse's ass. And in that moment is when he gains the sights, the abilities to see the demons around him. So that part was pretty fantastic. And that's kind of where that's his origin story as the Marquis, and it goes on from there. The one thing I did also want to show you is in issue number 5, his use of color in this one, starting even with the cover itself. So without doing much in the way of spoilers, again, we kind of start off the story. We're unsure what's happened to the Marquis. Obviously, we all know that he didn't die because there were series after this, but you're unsure of if he's died, what's happened to him. So once we kind of discover the Marquis here in this world surrounded by blackness. We start to get introduced with a little bit of color, a little bit of red, and these glowing eyes are kind of staring at him, and it's sort of supposed to be him inside the mask. Um, and then we get full blown looking at what he's actually now descended into hell, where he's going to find out kind of a lot more information about his mission in here. And again, without spoiling too much, but I did want to show you some of these pages. There's a lot of black, white, and red type comics out there, and they're all fairly impactful. I think this is probably one of the best uses of it that I've seen in the comics. And again, just kind of highlighting Davis's just kind of character monster creations is really impressive. So yeah, really appreciate the expert insight into this. I got that Preludes issue from Cheap Box, but haven't come across any others. I'll have to look for the rest if you recommend it. Yeah, I would absolutely recommend it. Good luck in finding it. I haven't had the most luck. I've had to order a bunch of the issues online, but hey man, you may have a lot better luck. And honestly, even when I saw it recently again, some of the issues that I already have, I bought the doubles just because I knew that I wouldn't find it again. So that horse's ass part is great. Yeah, the artwork is really something. Absolutely. So there you have it. Fantastic stuff. And I think that the major criticism I have with this second kind of two-parter is that we do get a lot more of that dialogue heavy stuff that we've really dove into in pretty good depth in this 5-issue series, that I really think that it's a real weakness of these 2 issues, because this character here, one of the main characters in this 2-part storyline, is a pretty intriguing idea and a pretty intriguing character. And I wish he would have sort of developed more story around that, as opposed to continually showing us the good guys, the priests and the inquisitors and stuff, and the shit that they were up to get people to confess that they saw demons and all of that stuff that's not really treading any sort of territory that's a surprise to anybody with a book like this. So this one is called Devil's Reign, Hell's Courtesan, and it's a 2-part, just a 2-parter. So 1 issue to go to get the whole thing, and I have it on my wish list, and I'm hoping that I end up finding it actually locally is what I always hope, because I don't think I can do another Lone Star order this year before they start nabbing me at the border. So there you have it. That's it. Thanks very much for hanging out. Dan, good to see you. Chaos and Comics, thanks for coming. Who else did I miss? Colin Blanchette, of course. Always good to see you, Colin. I hope you enjoyed the Daryl D. Great to see you as well. Hope you enjoyed the signing today, Colin. Colin actually was seeing Klaus in Portland today. Lord Tatman and Donovan, thanks for dropping in. We will see you all next week. Like I said, it'll be Tuesday that I'm on with Rasa on her channel. And then probably Tuesday night, we'll do the same thing. I'll kind of have a look at the fucking amazing comics that we end up reading this week. Top of the stack is a whole bunch of Matt Howarth. So we'll probably have a whole bunch of Matt Howarth to talk about next week. All right. Talk to you later.